Welcome to another edition of Query Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network, presented by WGU Indiana. Just remember, Derek, ambition never rests. WGU, by the way, celebrating 10 years, 10-year anniversary. They began in 2010, Indiana's affordable online accredited university, and they have an opportunity for you to get $10,000 in scholarships. We'll talk about that later on coming up in the program. But, Derek, this is episode, what are we on now?
This is episode 9.
Is it really?
Yep.
Okay.
And episode 2, Since You Cheated Death.
Okay.
Are we still talking about that? The shelf life's kind of run out on that, right?
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Till I have another one, and then we'll talk about it again.
That's true. I mean, the chances are the show will be around for years and years and years, so we're going to probably have to go through this a couple of times.
I hope I never have to go through that again. But if
So
I
do
do,
we,
I do, I know the dress rehearsal for it. Listen, we're now talking about coming off of a Colts win, and a Colts win on the road, which that sounds weird because the television angles for the Colts-Lions games, they showed a lot of the stadium, and you're like, and that's when it reinforces. This literally looks like a scrimmage of two teams playing in an empty stadium. But nonetheless, I don't know how good Detroit is. We could say that each and every year, but they have some talent. I think Matthew Stafford's a talented guy. And I know that you don't say, well, anytime you can win on the road, does the road really matter this year? But nonetheless, a win is a win, and the Colts got some help within the division, and things are looking good here through week 7.
Yeah, I would categorize Detroit the same as I would Cincinnati. They're not bad. They're just not good. And if you do not play – if you don't shoot your foot off, then chances are you're going to find a way to win that game. But if you do, they can sneak up and beat you. And so this game, especially coming out of the bye, Jake, I think was really important for the Colts to assert themselves and play perhaps their most well-rounded game of the year. Special teams was a disaster, and we'll get into that. But offensively and defensively, this was the first time that both units performed at a very, very high level. I thought the defense was downright dominant, particularly the defensive line at times, and the offense was terrific. Phillip Rivers, again, for the last 6-7 quarters has been the quarterback that the Colts hoped that they were getting.
A couple of things here with Phillip Rivers. First and foremost, Rivers is, we keep saying this, he is, Derek, who we thought he was going to be. And there are going to be those games where you just say, because he's a riverboat gambler, and there are times he's going to make a throw that maybe he could have made 5 years ago, and the window closes faster than he anticipated because the ball didn't have the same zip, whatever it might be. But he knows what he's doing, and he knows – he does not fall victim to, as a lot of quarterbacks do, although he has, and we have seen times where he has, totally telegraphing passes. He's starting to get that rhythm now where he is not necessarily early weeks 1 and 2. There were times where everybody in the building, which is like 15 people, granted, knew where he's about to throw the ball. He seems more in rhythm now where things are instinctive and he feels the timing of, whether it be Zach Pascal, Jack Doyle, whoever it might be, and you're starting to see the results of that. But we knew who he was coming in, and so far, people that were saying they got to unload Rivers, and, what are you going to get right now that is an upgrade from Phillip Rivers at this point of the season? Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's a lateral movement at best. I personally believe Rivers is going to get 2 years out of the Colts, and that he's going to be back next year. That remains to be seen. I think they would like to see that happen. But my point, long-winded and circuitously, is I think at this point you have to be happy with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, we're almost at the midway point, 7 games, but it's been 8 weeks. And I think overall Rivers has pretty much played to the level that I expected him to play. Look, he still has the propensity to make a big mistake. That's not going to go away. That's who he's always been. But 2 things that Rivers does really well. A, he's very accurate. And B, you at least have the threat of a vertical passing attack with him, even with maybe lessened arm strength than he used to have when he was, let's say, 28 or 29 years old. Through these 7 games, the Colts are 4th in the NFL in explosive offensive plays, so 15-plus yards. And a lot of that is credit to Rivers. I mean, we saw it yesterday again with Marcus Johnson. Great example of being a big play threat. And I think that's really what separates him from Jacoby Brissett from last year. And also, and we'll get to this in a little bit here, Jake, what may separate the Colts and this 5-2 start compared to last year's 5-2 start, because a lot of people are looking at that saying, wait a minute, Is this 2019 all over again? Because the Colts are about to get into a much tougher stretch here, really a season-defining stretch of games. And I am confident that while I don't view this team as a contender or anything close to that, I do think that this firmly is going to be a good team and a playoff team because of what we see, not only with the offense's big playability, but also with the defensive big playability.
Did you have a good weekend, by the way?
Yeah. It was
What
solid.
did
It was
you
a
do?
little cold. I picked up a shift for Mr. Bezos
What's that?
on Saturday, so I worked an 8-hour shift on Saturday.
Really?
Yeah. But I was outside. I was with the OTR team, so I was outside
What is OTR?
on the road. So I was outside.
Is that the Jack Kerouac? You
and
just
we
call
were-
that's the Kerouac team.
we were inducting drivers, but I also got to play DJ because they have a speaker out there so you can listen to music. And
Music-
Manny was playing a lot of Spanish, Latin music, which is fine. I can't understand the words. My high school Spanish only goes so far, so they let me spin a couple of tunes.
What'd you spin?
Oh, all kinds of stuff, brother. All kinds of stuff.
I'd like to know.
Little fish.
Menudo? Did you get in a little Menudo?
Little rock. We mixed in a little Hanson.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
Manny was thrilled.
He was. He
Yeah.
asked, "What is this?" And I was
I'm
surprised
sure.
that he hadn't heard it.
Did you say this is basically this is Menudo?
I said, "This
'Cause
is
that's what it is.
This is American rock and roll." I said, "What it is."
Okay.
What is menudo? Is that the Latin music you're talking about with Manny?
Menudo is translates to Hanson.
My Spanish is a little rough, but I don't think that's
Well,
true.
Menudo was the 1983 Hanson. If you look it up, it's almost exactly the same.
So they were a rock band in 1983.
If you want to call them rock, that's just fine.
Because I always thought Hanson was more like a Duran Duran sort of, maybe a Van Halen. Not that hard, but a little bit like in that same realm.
I think Hanson was basically a prepubescent Christopher Cross.
I'm also
that's
not
fine.
familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm
Can
sure
we,
you're
can we
not.
back to the Colts? Because we got a lot to discuss here with that.
The running game.
And
Area
Jordan
of
Wilkins?
concern?
Well, is Jordan Wilkins your new RB1? I don't know.
Wilkins, Hines. We've known, right? It somewhat is situational and schematic, but I feel like they're interchangeable. You just don't know from one game to the next
I
which
think
one
they
you're
have
going with,
they
right?
have different skill sets. The Colts, Hines had a great game in the passing game yesterday, but the Colts' insistence on running Hines in between the tackles on second and long is just, what are they doing?
Right.
Nat
That's not his-
Newell of the Indy Star actually looked it up, and on 2nd and 7+ runs with Hines, they've done that 7 times this year. They've netted -2 yards. Negative, and I know 7 carries is a small sample size, but why would you? That's not his skill. You have to get Hines in space. Like, that's where he's special. He making guys miss, and the spin move that you saw yesterday where he hit circle button, like, that's the stuff that he can do. The in-between tackle stuff needs to be Wilkins, and I think to some extent Taylor. But I think what fans are learning is that, look, we wanted to crown, and some of this has to do with Mac's injury in week 1. We wanted to crown Taylor right away.
Right.
Oh, this guy's great. He's going to be unbelievable. Let's put him in there right now, and he's going to be a 1,500-yard guy. Look, he's not ready for that. I still think Jonathan Taylor is going to be a good and productive NFL player, but this thought that he was going to come in and be all-pro right away, I think people had way too high of a bar of expectations for
I
him.
think also, Derek, the thought process, the narrative was with Jonathan Taylor that he could be a solid between the tackles back. And maybe in time he can, but you've got to learn in the NFL. You know, that we hear a lot about gap closing in the NFL. In college, Jonathan Taylor, he's at Wisconsin, he's behind this behemoth line. He can wait for a split second to see where the hole's opening up and then burst through it. In the NFL, that hole, if it even opens at all, is open for a very short amount of time, and it's about, you don't have as much time to dance back there. Trent Richardson learned this same thing. And, it is true. Jeff Showalter pointed out on Twitter, I thought it was a good point, he is coming in with a lot of mileage on those tires. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think he's going to be a perfectly fine and serviceable player probably for a long time. But to your point, is he Barry Sanders right out of the box? No, obviously not. I think we are going to see a continued back by committee depending on what sort of looks they're anticipating from each defense one game.
I just think we need to accept that this is not going to be the running game of 2019. It's just not. I don't know what the problem is with the running game. You have the same offensive line, right? And all of these running backs, we would agree, are capable. Hines is capable. Wilkins is capable. Taylor is capable. They have flaws. They're not perfect. They're not, Adrian Peterson in his prime, but those are capable guys. But until Wilkins really got going yesterday when the Colts kind of were able to sit on a lead, the numbers were embarrassing. I mean, even after what Wilkins did in the third and fourth quarter, I think the Colts still ended up at 3.1 YPC. That's not good enough. You can't. You need to be better than that.
YPC.
Yeah, yards per carry.
Okay.
Colts are one of the worst teams in the league YPC wise this year, and it just hasn't been an efficient running game or a very effective running game.
YPC wise meaning WISE, like in regards to YPC, or YPC and then YS? When you said YPC wise.
Have you ever been to footballreference.com?
No.
Or baseballreference.com?
So
you seem to not know any of these very common numbers and terms.
Let me show you the footballreference.com.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. From 1982 to 1988, you are a wealth of football knowledge.
I know.
2020, not so much.
Do you know that, you talk about Heinz and sometimes slow getting going. Did you know that I'm going to pretend this is a ketchup bottle. Now that you have the squeeze bottle, but are you old enough to remember when ketchup was almost primarily
the Heinz glass bottles?
Yeah.
I still
Did you
remember
know that
those
the
from
Heinz
diners.
glass bottles, here is a fun fact and a tip for you for your dining experience. Did you know that the Heinz glass ketchup bottles, they have the number 57 on either side of them?
Yeah,
right?
I remember. And you hit the 57 with the knife if the
you,
ketchup is
not the
jammed
knife,
up in there.
just like, no, what?
Yeah, you tap it with the knife.
You just go like
That's
this.
the key.
You just go like this. And I'm doing this with the St. Elmo Steakhouse straight bourbon
don't
whiskey.
Don't spill any of that.
With dark cherry and the vanilla.
That's a
bourbon
lot
beans.
more expensive
It's
per ounce than ketchup.
It's wonderful. This right here is fantastic. You want to make an Elmo Cola, for example? Wonderful right here. But you take the 57 bottle, right where it says 57 on, and you just do this. And then that bad
tap
boy.
it with the knife.
No,
Tap.
The 57 is on the bottle for a reason. That's where you hit it.
Tap
with the
it with
butt
the
of your
knife.
hand. No, not with
Galaxy
the knife.
Diner, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
No.
Yep. Get a grilled cheese sand.
Derek, I just had angioplasty. I am now suddenly a total expert on getting things that are clogged up to flow evenly.
Touche, yeah.
They turned me upside down, and then Dr. Mottman at Community Health this 3 times on the 57 of my
I don't
heart.
want to think about your heart
back in
valves
action.
as a Heinz 57.
Well, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, pass on that.
What about Elmo Cola, though? You
Let's
got
talk
no
about the
problem with
defense, too, Jake. Another pick six. They have a league-leading 11 interceptions. This is what they wanted this defense to be. Not just a control yards and limit all of that points, but be a playmaking defense. And I think that the play that changed the entire complexion of that game was the Darius Leonard strip sack fumble.
Huge.
Because the Lions are marching down the field about to take the lead.
Correct.
Because Blankenship, got a bad snap. He had a lot of things happen. I think one of his rec specs were foggy. He had a lot of things that were outside of his control that happened yesterday to miss those 2 PATs. But the Colts are only up 6. And the Lions have the ball, and they're marching, and Leonard makes that play. And ever since then, it was just a landslide. Not a landslide, an avalanche for the Colts where they completely
you got landslide on the mind.
Well, we do have an election coming up.
That's right. Kenny Moore also, continues to be just like found money, right? I mean, a great find for them. Stafford.
Grover Stewart as well has been a great find for them. The entire defensive – it might be the best defensive line in the league, and how many times have you ever said that about the Colts?
Correct. No, you are right. I mean, give Chris Ballard credit here in the fact that, yes, the Colts made a concerted effort to draft and grow through the draft defensively, but what the Colts have been able to do, and every team seeks to do this way, it just doesn't mean necessarily that it always comes to fruition this way, and that is – to use free agency to complement the roots that you already have, not to go out and build a team through free agency. I think we have seen the Colts in the past become too aggressive in free agency and go all in on overspending all over the place. But to go through and to use free agency to complement pieces you have elsewhere, and a guy like Buckner who's been outstanding, and then getting that complementary play like you talk about, Derek, Stewart's been great. Danico Autry, you see right there, has played well. So, yes, their defense is impressive.
Yeah,
it's a fun defense
and you
to watch.
got Autry through free agency. You got Stewart and hopefully Teray, who comes back this week through the draft. And then you take the big swing on the Buckner trade where that was a win-now move. You don't trade a top 15 draft pick unless you feel like you've got a guy that's going to come in and blow things up immediately in a good way. And he's blown things up. He's changed the entire complexion of that line because everything is about him drawing double teams and being a dominant force, and then everyone else feels the ripple effects from that. It's kind of like this show. I perform at an elite level, I can have a replacement level co-host who can be here and just kind of keep the ball rolling and keep that ball up in the air. But I'm, kind of the Joe Montana of this whole thing.
You notice I didn't go on injured reserve.
You're Roger Craig. You're fine. You're like a borderline. Roger Craig was kind of a borderline Hall of Famer, right? He's a pretty good career.
I'm Alex Smith. I had a remarkable comeback when everyone had written me off.
Yeah, but that kind of infers that you're a quarterback, and clearly there's one quarterback.
Okay. Roger Craig was a fun player to watch, I'll say that. Mm-hmm. We have a lot to get to over the course of the show.
We do. We've got a ton of college football stuff to get to.
We do.
Indiana and Purdue are both undefeated in Big Ten play, both 2-0 for the first time in a very long time. In fact, I'll tell you how long it's been for both of those teams.
May I guess?
Do not ruin my tease.
Okay.
You can guess when we come back.
I'm talking about when we come back.
Yes, you can guess when we come back.
All right.
It's Query Schultz, ISC Sports Network, Episode 9 continues next.
Dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone? Anyone? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
Welcome back. It's Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network alongside the still alive Jake Query. I'm Derek Schultz. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at St. Elmo and their straight bourbon whiskey, which we just talked about in the last segment. We love talking about this every segment on the show.
Fabulous.
Absolutely delicious. Straight bourbon whiskey with dark cherry and bourbon vanilla beans. Hard to believe, Jake, it's November, which means the holiday season. We're putting the Christmas tree up, I think, tomorrow. So the holiday season is here.
You're putting the Christmas tree up tomorrow?
This is perfect 365 days a year.
It is.
But especially, when the weather outside is frightful.
Produced,
this really
Derek,
hits hard.
Bottled by St. Elmo Steakhouse. Actually, out of Bloomington where they do it.
Do they really?
Yep.
How do you know that?
Because I know everything.
Oh, it's on the back of the
couple of rocks right there in your glass. St. Elmo bourbon. Fill the rest with cola. And then 2 cherries.
Really good.
Fantastic for the Elmo Cola. Available where, Derek?
Kroger's, Myers, Targets, everywhere.
All throughout Central Indiana.
Everywhere that you go. Yep.
But a great institution in Indianapolis, St. Elmo Steakhouse and their Elmo
Another
Cola.
thing that we didn't mention, I know we got a lot of college football stuff to get to, and we'll include Notre Dame into that mix. Let's get this out of the way. Indiana and Purdue, 2-0 in Big Ten play. First time since?
1993.
Are you serious? You were in the room when Greg and I were talking about this before we started taping,
I listen
right?
to anything you're saying?
93. No, 93. During the Jim Coletto era? Think about that for a second.
1987.
A better guess, but still, Akers and Purdue. I mean, Purdue had a long kind of dry spell in there when the Mallory teams were really good.
Indiana then had dry spells, forever.
No, but you're picking years when Indiana was good, but Purdue was down.
Was it in my lifetime?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
74.
72. Because you were born in 72,
I
right?
was, yeah.
Yeah, it was 1972.
Matter of fact, it might have been exactly when I was born.
Yeah, it would have had to have been late September or early October 72 because they'd have to be 2 games into the Big Ten schedule. Last time Indiana and Purdue 2-0, and Greg always one-ups my stats, but Greg Rakestraw came in with Northwestern 2-0 as well. Never happened. Never happened that all 3 of those teams start.
Well, you'd be hard-pressed to go
2-0.
back prior to the 2000s. You'd be hard-pressed to find any year where Northwestern was 2-0 in the Big Ten.
Yeah. One of my favorite sports things ever was Highway 94 up there in Illinois. Somebody graffitied the sign one time in the early 80s when Denny Green was there, and it said Highway 94, and somebody wrote under it, Northwestern 0. It just always makes me laugh thinking about that. Let's tie a bow on the Colts thing because something that we didn't mention, they're in a first-place tie now.
Yep.
Tennessee losing again, shockingly, to Cincinnati. But we mentioned, I think you saw it last week, like Cincinnati is not ready to be a good team this year.
No, they've got some nice
Joe
pieces.
Burrow is legit, and he has some weapons around him, and that's a team that if you're not on your best day or on a good day, they can jump up and surprise
the thing for
you.
Cincinnati, if you're a Bengals fan, that is you have to be excited about is not only is Joe Burrow looking certainly the part of a number 1 pick, and he looks poised. I mean, he's got all the intangibles, but he's also developing a really good timing, trust, and just comfort level. Not with A.J. Green, who's only going to be around for a few more years, but with T. Higgins, who is also a rookie. So that 1-2 combo looks like it's going to be something special for Cincinnati moving forward, assuming both stay healthy.
But these 4 games coming up here, starting with Baltimore, who I was kind of hoping was going to beat Pittsburgh yesterday. I think this actually puts the Colts in a worse spot that the Ravens are coming off a loss, but at least you're at home for that one. And then a home-and-home with Tennessee sandwiched in between a home game with Green Bay, who also got surprised yesterday at home by really a bad Vikings team.
I mean, it's getting real now for the Colts, though, right? I mean,
this is a season-defining stretch. I don't think that is hyperbole to say that. We'll learn everything that we need to know about the Colts over these next 4 games. If they truly are a championship contender, which I don't think they are, they do something crazy here, like go 3-1 or run the table. If they're firmly a playoff team, I think you go 2-2 in this stretch, which is what I would predict, gun to my head right now. I'm not going to pick individually the wins and losses. I think the Colts can split these 4, and if they do, they'll be in very good shape, not only potentially for the division. It depends where the wins come, obviously. If those 2 wins are Tennessee, different conversation. But also for the wild card, because I think you have to assume the AFC North loser is one of the wild cards, but the rest of it, Cleveland, Vegas, I guess Miami, I think at this point you can write New England off, can't you?
I got a question for you, Derek.
They're 2-5.
Al Michaels, you've watched some of Sunday Night Football on NBC, right?
In the past, yes.
Yeah.
I did not watch 1 second of last night's disaster.
Over the weekend, yeah. So Al Michaels is, the transition has begun from Al Michaels to Mike Tirico, which I think we all knew was going to happen eventually, right?
And Mike doing Notre Dame games on NBC already.
Right. And so Michaels is doing, he is taking some games off, and Mike Tirico is sliding into those games on Sunday Night Football. I got to thinking about this last night. If you were Al Michaels and NBC called you and said, hey, we're starting this transition, so we're going to make it easy. You get to pick 2 divisions in the NFL, and anytime the game is being played and the home team is a team from that division, you don't have to do it. Mike Tirico will do that game. Based on just the travel. Now, I don't mean based on the stadium or based on the press box, just based on the cities, the time of year that you'd be going to them, and the cities. Which 2 divisions in the NFL would you say, I'm good, man. I don't need to go to games in those divisions.
Unquestionably, I think the AFC North is one of them.
So you got Pittsburgh, Baltimore,
Cleveland, Cincinnati. And I always kind of have a soft spot for Cincinnati, but
I do for Baltimore.
Downtown Cleveland actually is pretty cool. Like, there's stuff to do. Cleveland always gets this bad rap, but the weather and all of that.
The weather. Okay, so rough. AFC North is fair. What's the other one?
Ooh.
See, to me, the other one is the most obvious.
AFC East? Well, you got Miami.
AFC East, you get to go to Miami.
Yeah.
In November and December, there's a lot to be desired weather-wise of being in New York City. Buffalo, no thanks, right?
Yeah.
But AFC East would not be.
And NFC, I really like Dallas-Fort Worth, I think is a cool area.
NFC East
New York
again.
City.
New York City is cool, but in November, January.
Philly kind of sucks.
I mean, around the holidays, New York City would be great. DC's kind of cool. Dallas is cool.
This is weird. I have never been to DC.
Really?
I've been to every state in the eastern half of the United States and basically all of the major cities up and down the East Coast. And there was an 8th grade. We had an 8th grade field trip to D.C. and I threw up on the bus on the way there, and they had to turn around.
How far into the trip were you?
Oh, only like 20 miles. We were just a little bit down the Merritt Parkway, and I had to pull the trigger. Yeah.
They turned around because you threw up on the bus.
We stopped at a mobile station like rest area on one of the
Why
exits.
would they turn around for that?
In like
every kid throws up on a bus at some point.
Not turn around. We stopped in like New Canaan or somewhere going
where
south.
Letterman lived, yeah.
Yeah. One of the rich suburbs in one of those like swanky rest areas, and my parents came and picked me up.
Why?
Because I was sick.
Well, did you have the flu or were you just nervous?
I don't really remember.
Were you sitting
but
too
I
close?
threw up.
You know what it was? You were sitting across from Katie Koleski and got nervous.
No, that's not what happened. I was in the front of the bus near Ralph, and she was in the back of the
Ralph?
bus. Ralph was the bus driver, who was also one of my closest friends in 8th
Appropriately
grade.
named based on the adjective of the day, right?
He's a good guy. Okay. Oh, yeah, Ralph, because I Ralphed?
Yeah, or
I guess
verb,
you can't
I
make
guess,
that
yeah.
joke. Yeah.
NFC North.
Chicago's a cool town.
It is, but you're going in the wintertime.
I always heard Minneapolis was a cool place.
Minneapolis is a great town. It's a great summer
it's very
city.
comparable to Indy.
Minneapolis is a great city, but it's a summer city. I don't know that I'd want to go to Minneapolis in the dead of winter.
Are we counting Green Bay as Milwaukee area?
I mean, I love Milwaukee. It's one of the most underrated cities, but Green Bay, it's 2 hours from Milwaukee.
And Milwaukee's also a summer city because I went once in March and it was all Catholic churches. Like that's the whole skyline is old Catholic churches.
Detroit?
Detroit's kind of like Cleveland, though. I heard that the downtown has kind of come back, and there's a
tell
lot
me,
of history.
Tell me the two divisions, if you're Al Michaels, that you say, these are the two divisions. I am lock, stock, and barrel. I'm going to these divisions. You're not taking these divisions away from me.
It absolutely has to be, I think, the
one of them is so obvious.
The NFC West.
That's so obvious.
With Seattle,
San Francisco,
LA, San Francisco, and then
Arizona.
I have uncle and cousins in Arizona, and they love it.
I mean, the NFC West
and
is
weather-wise,
the creme de la creme.
Yeah, weather-wise, it would be great. The second one's probably a little bit tougher because the AFC West, you have some cool cities in there. Kansas City's a real kind of laid-back place. Denver, I've never been to, but I've heard is really cool.
I mean, Denver,
Vegas is happening.
That's pretty hard to beat.
You get out of Oakland,
LA
so that's
again, right?
And then LA again. So that's a front runner, I think. NFC South has cities that I've spent a lot of time in.
Also not bad. New Orleans, Tampa.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Charlotte's okay. At least it's warm, right?
Who are we missing out of that?
Charlotte, New Orleans, Tampa, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta's kind of
Atlanta's whatever.
Now, the funny thing is we did not mention, but if you are Al Michaels, is the AFC South really exciting to you? Nashville's a cool city. Indianapolis, I mean, we know.
Yeah,
great.
Whatever. You like Jacksonville.
I do like Jacksonville, but it's not happening. Yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah. And then Houston.
Houston's a little overwhelming.
Houston's just Keystone at the Crossing on steroids. It's just urban sprawl of 10,000 Bed Bath & Beyonds and Cheesecake Factories.
And if you're there in September, it's probably still pretty hot and humid, right?
Correct. You can break in the Astrodome. It's always
fun. That's true. Yeah, crawl through an air vent.
What are we doing next? You got us sidetracked. I don't even know what we were talking about.
College football.
Oh, yeah.
We got college football next. Indiana, Purdue, Notre Dame.
I'm worried, Derek.
Also, Winners Drink Milk, Winner of the Week, the Shop Biter Bowl Bleep, and a new feature, which we'll tell you about later on.
It's a new feature that's an old feature, but it's new to this program.
That's right. I forget that this show is already ingrained in Indianapolis pop culture. So
really?
You're right about that. A long,
like for
history.
example, I, old member of this show, but heart new feature. Although my heart is not new, but my uncle had a new heart and got a second lease on life because of the generosity of somebody and a selfless act. And we can talk about that with the Indiana Donor Network as well.
Okay, good. You saved it with that heartwarming story because the first one I didn't really know where you're going with
We'll get to all that. How's that?
Query Schultz, ISC Sports Network. We could take a lot of this out in post.
Okay.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning. tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Because Brian saved 5 lives and started a movement. Because Lester is a hero as a veteran and an organ donor.
Because Allie's legacy lives on.
Because I know how quickly it can be taken away.
I'm driven.
I am driven to save lives.
I'm driven to save lives. Are you?
More than 4 million Hoosiers have teamed up with Indiana Donor Network to save lives. Sign up to become an organ donor at driven2savelives.org.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. This segment of the program brought to you by the Indiana Donor Network. And love this organization because as somebody who's worked around auto racing, unfortunately, we have seen tragedy in auto racing, but those are tragedies that save lives. For example, Justin Wilson. In addition to that, the face of this in Brian Clausen throughout Indiana, who saved 8 lives by the fact that after being fatally injured in an accident, it was learned that Brian Clausen was an organ donor. And you too can be an organ donor. As a matter of fact, there are 1,300 Hoosiers right now waiting for critical organ transplants. My uncle Dwayne, back in 1985, had a heart transplant, and therefore his life was extended thanks to the selfless act that somebody else had of making that donation. All you have to do is go to driven2savelives.org. That's driven, the number 2, driven2savelives.org. There is no age limit on signing up to be an organ donor, and 1,300 Hoosiers are anxiously awaiting right now that life-saving organ transplant. Great organization, Derek.
Yeah, for sure, Indiana Donor Network, and you mentioned what Brian Clausen selflessly was able to do. Thank God for that. You know, you try to take good out of every tragic situation, right? And that is the one good out of, obviously, what was a very tragic situation with his loss of life.
Speaking of good in college football, we know that, and I will say this, I think the best team in college football is Ohio State, and they continue to look good. It's difficult to tell exactly how good because I think Penn State – I'm not sold on Penn State, who now is 0-2 in the Big Ten, obviously after losing to Indiana and then just kind of never really being in the game with Ohio State. Even though it wasn't a blowout, you kind of knew Ohio State. Fields is a wonderful talent. But a lot of interesting things now taking shape here within college football.
Yeah, for sure. And let's start on a local level first because Indiana's up to 13th in both of the polls. That's the highest, that ties the highest spot that the program has ever been in. And it's crazy to really think about that Indiana is a top 15 football team. But I was really impressed. They had some early sloppiness, but they really turned on the Jets late in that win over Rutgers to keep them at bay.
Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers. 37-21. They were able to defeat them. And Purdue's game kind of went the opposite, where Purdue was comfortably ahead by 3 tutties late, and you thought, okay, they're just going to kind of hit into cruise control. But Illinois really pushed them and had the chance to get the ball back to tie it up. But David Bell just made a spectacular third down grab, another spectacular game for him, who I think now has arrived as Purdue's best player. And that's not a slight at Rondale Moore. I just think David Bell is that special.
We talked about that last week, right? I mean, yeah. David Bell, Rondale Moore probably has more explosiveness about him, but you have to more specify what you're doing to get Rondale Moore in space, and you have to more custom make plays for him. Whereas David Bell, you can put him anywhere, right? Now, here's the question. Is Rondale Moore, are we going to see him this year?
I don't know. I mean, even the press conference earlier today, we're taping this on Monday, the press conference from Jeff Brahms said something generic like, when he comes back, we'll be thrilled to have him. You know what I mean? And
right.
I don't think we know for sure that – I can't imagine, Jake, that Rondale Moore would back off of opting out only to not play, right? That would seem like a really weird decision. So I'm assuming he's going to play. I just don't know when that's going to be.
The wild card being, and I want to be very clear here, okay? I want to be very clear that this is – I'm simply saying this as an example or a hypothetical. In no way, shape, or form is this rooted in any sort of a report or anything like that. With any player this year, Derek, that is out indefinitely or an undetermined amount of time, there is the possibility, of course, that they tested positive for COVID and you're waiting that time frame on when they can return. The Big Ten has a longer – the ACC, for example, a player that tests positive is mandatory out for 10 days. The Big Ten, I believe it's 21. Mm-hmm. So it's a longer period of time. That said, for example, Trevor Lawrence, who is the best quarterback in college football, Justin Fields is a wonderful talent and is right there, Boardwalk and Park Place. But I think Lawrence is the better of the two. But Trevor Lawrence testing positive for number one Clemson, and the big question was, well, they're going to retroactively say that he tested positive, move it back so that he's eligible for the Notre Dame game. No, that wasn't the case. They immediately came out and said, look, he didn't play against Boston College, and now against Notre Dame he is also out. So Clemson goes to a 5-star freshman quarterback, DJ. Do you know how to say his last name?
Yes, hold on. I put it specifically in the notes. Why would you do that? I was about to do it.
Go ahead.
Well, you stole all my thunder.
You
just did it.
Go ahead.
Oyangalele.
Uliangale.
No, I think there's an extra L in there. Oyangalele. Oyangalele.
Uyangalele.
I think it's O instead of U.
Okay.
Oyangalele.
Regardless.
You're the big Clemson fan, man.
am.
It's kind of embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for you that you didn't just get that right away.
I am stunned. The reason I mention this about Clemson is because they are getting ready to play Notre Dame. And obviously Notre Dame's a team that we talk about that's here in the state. I'm stunned that Clemson is a 5-point favorite.
I'm not. I think Clemson.
They're going in with a freshman quarterback making his second career
start. A 5-star who, threw for 3 tuds against BC and rallying them to a win. So, or 2. Did he have 2 tuds or 3?
I think he had
3 tud bombs? I'll look it up. Yeah, 342 2-tud bombs against BC for DJ.
Touchdowns.
Clemson deserves the benefit of the doubt that Notre Dame has not earned yet. What Notre Dame has done, and really under the last couple of seasons, remember they had that disastrous 2016 year, but in the last couple of seasons, what Notre Dame has done has, at the very least, they've not lost to anybody they shouldn't lose to. They have beaten all the teams at or below their level consistently. I think they've beaten unranked opponents something like 30 times in a row. They've got 22 straight home wins. So Notre Dame has really done a great job taking care of business against the teams you expect them to beat. But against teams like Clemson, Georgia, they had that game in Miami a couple of years ago that was a total disaster. That's where they've really struggled.
Derek, here's the thing with Notre Dame, and I understand it. Notre Dame is one of the proudest, it is probably the proudest and richest tradition in college football. And I understand, the thirst that people have, the passion to get it back to that point where they are in the upper echelon. And I'm not saying that they're not. I think Brian Kelly's a really good coach. However, Clemson is coming in without their starting quarterback, without their best linebacker. And every team right now is riddled with injuries and virus, shelving and everything else. I get it. But if there is a time, I say this only because I watch Clemson. If there's a time to take on Clemson, it's right now. I mean, Clemson is clicking at like 60% cylinder. If Notre Dame can't at home beat Clemson with this Clemson lineup that's coming in, then Notre Dame totally loses the argument or the ability to argue their case as one of college football's elite in 2020.
It just kind of sucks for Notre Dame in a way where you could say, oh, look, they're getting a great break. And, yeah, I mean, not having Trevor Lawrence is a great break, right? But it also creates a bit of I don't want to call it a lose-lose situation, but this is what's going to happen. If Notre Dame wins, people will be like, well, yeah, they won, but they did it without Lawrence and they were at home. If Notre Dame loses, it's, oh, LOL, see, same old Notre Dame. So I think it actually adds some more, if that's even possible, adds some more pressure to this game. But the good thing for Notre Dame is that at least they're surging coming into this game. Georgia Tech is terrible, and Pitt is not a good football team. But they really didn't play well against Louisville or Duke or some of these other inferior teams earlier in the season, and it feels like things are really peaking for Notre Dame right now.
Well, in reality, in this Notre Dame-Clemson game, which is a game, 2 top 5 teams, right? It's kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things or seemingly it will turn out to be irrelevant because the ACC this year, they're not doing the conferences, okay, in the ACC or the divisions of the conference. So at the end of the whatever it is, 8 games that they're going to play, 10 games they're going to play, okay, the two teams with the best record are going to the ACC championship game. Theoretically, that's going to be Notre Dame and Clemson because theoretically,
North Carolina?
but theoretically, this will be the only loss for those two teams.
Maybe.
And so
yeah.
North Carolina's pretty good. North Carolina is a distinct possibility. And look, any team can stub their toe at any time. But let's say, for example, that Clemson goes in and beats Notre Dame. Or let's say they go in there and Notre Dame beats them. Either way. And then they play again in the ACC title game. Winner of the ACC title game goes either way.
Yeah, I think that's right, especially with the Big 12 pretty much being out of it now. And I still don't see the Pac-12 sending a team to the playoff.
Ohio State's in. We're talking about the college football playoff. Ohio State, assuming that they hold serve.
We think, yeah. Alabama, same thing.
Ohio State's in. Alabama's in. Okay, then you have one of those ACC teams.
And then I think you leave another spot for an SEC team, likely, with where we sit today. It could change.
I mean, aren't we kind of done with the Georgia experiment? Right? One loss, Georgia.
Yeah.
But, look, all honesty, BYU?
Maybe. I mean,
BYU
this would be
runs
a year,
the table. Do you give them a shot? Right.
So this would be a year to kind of
Is Cincinnati still
experiment
unbeaten?
with that. I think they are, yes. And what are they, 9th or 10th in the country?
Yeah,
so maybe there's a chance there.
I mean, at this point, Derek, if you are unbeaten through week 5 of your season and you haven't had your entire roster sidelined by the virus, then congratulations on your top 8 ranking.
One thing that I'm more
Coastal Carolina's
interested
ranking.
in than the playoff, because we always do this where we talk all about the playoff in October and things just change in the next couple of weeks. Are Indiana and Purdue going to have to play twice? Bucket game, Big Ten title game.
No.
Wait a minute. What is that? Why were you so quick to write that off?
You think Indiana will beat Ohio State?
Come on. It's the fun of the show. No, do I think Indiana's going to
Okay, well,
no,
there you
of
go.
course not. But it's fun to dream. It's fun to think about.
I did see one of the national pundits say that they thought Indiana stood the biggest challenge for Ohio State.
I think you can make a very strong argument with where we sit right now that Indiana is the second best team in the Big Ten East.
That's possible.
Yeah. I really do. Now, they're a dog against Michigan, and this is a big – say what you want about Michigan. This is still
and
a
Purdue
proving
may
game
be
for Indiana.
Is Purdue the best team in the Big Ten West?
They might be. I mean, them
They
and
may be.
Northwestern, if Wisconsin can't get this situation figured out, it might be them and Northwestern playing for the Big Ten West title.
Wisconsin's in real jeopardy here. They have, 22 positive cases?
Yeah. Is that game even going to happen on Saturday?
And not to mention the state of Wisconsin is surging. So, I mean, they're
it's
going
a
to have
mess.
to literally bubble them. I mean –
and the Big Ten didn't give themselves any margin for error because they didn't build in like the ACC
correct
was able to build in bye weeks, and the Big Ten starting late wasn't able to do that. So a little bit tougher for them. We got some features to get to when we come back. Winners Drink Milk, winner of the week. Also, newly on board with us, Love Heating and Cooling.
Love those
our friends, Chris, John, and the rest of the crew over there.
They've been
around
around
celebrating their 100th anniversary.
Year. Yeah. And look, folks, especially this time of year, you're getting ready for that time of year where you're thinking, wait a minute, did I get the furnace checked? Or in the middle of the night, all of a sudden the furnace goes out in the coldest night of the year. That's the great thing about Love Heating and Air because they have 24-hour maintenance ready to come out and help you. And, that's actually what I think they enjoy the most is helping people out in that dire situation. Been around since 1920. Family owned and operated. 353-2141 is their telephone number. love-hvac.com, their website. I have known these guys my entire life and would not send you down a direction that I didn't trust in terms of their integrity. Love Heating.
Yeah, what we've learned is that strong, long-standing brands want to be in with strong, long-standing brands. So this marriage between Love and our show really is perfect. It makes a lot of sense for both parties.
And here's the thing, Derek. It makes sense for me because, quite frankly, I am both hot and cool.
This has not been your best day on just let me handle the ins and outs.
Okay.
Because this hasn't really been your – like I said, we can attack a lot of this in post. I know Greg is in there right now and making notes of that.
If you're watching this right now.
Not our best day.
And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, Jake, you are hot and cool. Both. Because I am both. At Jake Query on Twitter. Just send me a thing saying, Derek is wrong. Jake, you are both hot and you're a cool guy.
See, this is the thing, and I know this – hot people don't have to say that they're hot. They just are. Like, I've never said on the show that I'm hot. It's just, look, right? I mean, we have HD cameras in here.
Okay.
So I don't need to say it.
All right.
People know it.
What are we doing next?
We got our features next.
Okay.
Winners Drink Milk, winner of the week, and more as Query and Schultz continues here on ISC Sports Network.
Get enough of them.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This might
This
even
is
be
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today.
How hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Welcome back. It's Query Schultz here on ISC Sports Network alongside Jake
my
Query.
favorite
I'm Derek
segment right
Schultz. Time for our Winners Drink Milk. Winner of the week. We first have to give chocolate milk facts, Jake, because you have the chocolate milk in front of you.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
What is it, 10 bananas or something?
Do you know what milk it was that Louis Meyer first drank after the Indy 500 when he won?
Buttermilk.
Yeah, buttermilk. Buttermilk, I don't think of that as a refreshing, cooling beverage. But now this, although it is.
Yeah.
But chocolate milk, Derek, after a workout, perfect.
I don't know. There are a lot of people that drink buttermilk. Down like Morgan County, maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, you're checking it now. We haven't even done our winner of the week yet.
I can't stop. Once I get going on the chocolate milk, I can't stop.
My Winners Drink Milk winner of the week. The World Series concluded last week. Ratings were not good, but sports ratings across the board are down, so I'm not going to kill them for that.
Too much politics in baseball, Derek.
Yeah. Clayton Kershaw, a long-awaited championship ring for him. He was really good in both of his World Series starts after kind of having a rocky divisional series and a rocky championship series start against the Braves. And I'm thrilled for him because kind of like watching Peyton Manning all those years here in Indianapolis, it's sad that we have to do this to validate great players. Like, how many titles does LeBron have to win to validate him? You know what I mean? You should just appreciate who he is. And I'm glad that Kershaw got number one out of the way, so finally we can properly appreciate one of the best pitchers of his era. And I was thrilled for the Dodgers. There are a lot of friends that I have that are long-suffering as far as the championship drought is concerned, Dodgers fans, because I think it's very frustrating, Jake, when you have hope every year that it's going to end and you keep winning the division and you keep falling short, and then finally to have the breakthrough. Long time coming for the Dodgers.
You know, not only that about Clayton Kershaw, Derek, I echo what you say, but also I think he's a really good guy. You know, I don't know Clayton Kershaw. Disingenuous to say that I've even been around him. But by all account, he and his wife, very philanthropic. They've done a lot for underprivileged children really all around the world. And just seems to be a decent dude, you know. And it was great to see an elite level player, to your point, one of the greatest of his era, finally get that championship. I'm going to go with a young player. And a guy that, speaking of winning championships, we watched win a championship in high school. And there was a lot of question whether or not he would even be playing in the state championship game for Warren Central because he had an ankle injury at the time and was basically used as a decoy. But at the time, it was down between Indiana and Purdue for the services of David Bell, and it was the Boilermakers that he chose. Derek, he is already now over 1,000 yards for the season receiving in his most recent effort. 9 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown. And David Bell is showing to be an elite level talent. And I think it's really good also for kids on the east side of Indianapolis to see somebody that represents Warren Central, represents and talks about the fact he's far east side, and he is showing to be a winner at Purdue. So he is my Winners Drink Milk winner of the week.
Yeah, I mean, he's special. And there's a reason why, and I'm forgetting his name now. I think it was something generic like Zach Smith. Do you remember that whole Ohio State dealio where one of their assistants was like a hothead and a bad guy, and he was accused of domestic problems with his wife, and Urban Meyer face some problems because
good is
he
that?
protected him.
It's like I just ate a whole bunch of bananas.
Yeah, no, I'm appreciative.
Spinach.
I don't know if that's the best timing during the topic that I'm discussing right now.
Derek, it's our milk chug.
Well, yeah, but are you listening to anything that I'm saying?
Have I ever?
Anyway,
Yeah,
the
you're
text
talking about the Ohio
messages-
State guy that was talking about trying to get David
The
Bell.
text messages between him and Urban Meyer, they were released, and some of them had to do with David Bell. Like,
Correct.
hey, you can go to Purdue or whatever. Like, but the fact that those two guys were even talking about that shows how badly, when Ohio State really wants you, that means that you're a special player.
Yeah, when Ohio State felt rejected, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They felt
Yeah.
rejected, and slighted.
So good for David Bell, and he's just going to continue to to impress every single week. I don't think you're surprised anymore with what David Bell does on a football field.
I'll put on my winner's drink milk mask. Isn't that wonderful?
There you go. We have a couple more features to get to, which we'll come back and do next. Also, something to mention, Jake Starr still brightly burning in the wake of a near-death experience. I'll tell you about something that we had to deal with our QuerySchultz.com email server.
Really?
When we come back on the show.
I didn't know about
Got
this.
flooded.
Yeah, okay.
It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Indiana Dairy Farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. You had heard us mention earlier Love Heating and Air out of Indianapolis. 353-2141 is the telephone number for a family-owned business, been around since 1920. And again, love-hvac.com is their website. I've known them all my life, and I'm telling you, folks, you last that long in a family business, you know, when you're talking 4 generations deep of a family-owned business, you last that long with integrity, great product, great pricing. That's what you get. Dedication to customer service with Love Heating and Air, bringing you Love That Play. Also, want to again thank WGU for being on board with the program. WGU now celebrating its 10th year as Indiana's finest online affordable accredited university. Ambition never rests, and WGU with all of those opportunities for you to continue that education, now offering that $10,000 scholarship in celebration of their 10 years. That is correct, a $10,000 scholarship. Indiana.wgu.edu/10 by 10, 10x10. WGU.indiana.edu is their website. What do you...
Can we get it so the eye is on the other side, guys?
The eye's looking at me, Derek. You know why? Cool and hot.
I know it's just a TV monitor, but like when it pops up, and I can see it right here on this monitor, when it pops up behind me and it's like this close, it makes me a little
We have an
uncomfortable.
owl in the backyard, and it is tremendous. And at night, when you hear it, majestic.
They are just horrible
They are
predators.
majestic as well.
Like, I'm very thankful. Our partnership with WGU Indiana has been tremendous, and they're great people.
Sage is great, isn't he?
My wife ended up getting a second degree at WGU Indiana, so we're very, very appreciative of them. But the owl mascot, again, and I've told Corey this before, Corey Elliott, not my favorite choice. Yeah.
Love that play, Derek. Our favorite play from the weekend.
Oh, I think this is easy. Well, I shouldn't say that. Honorable mention to David Bell's third down catch at the end of the game against Illinois, which really salted the game away. But Nyheim Hines, not only the play and the spin on the first touchdown, but also, and I don't even know the proper term for it, gymnasts are going to know, the spin dealio, that's
right.
what I'm going to call it, in the air that he did. Let me say this, Jake. I just don't think that we can properly comprehend or appreciate just how gifted these athletes that we watch in professional sports are. And Nyheim Hines is a decent NFL player, right? Not a star, probably never will be, but just the fact that he has the athleticism to do something like that, it's mind-blowing what these guys can do. It's crazy.
Corkscrew with dismount.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Because I've done
Sounds
something,
good to me.
I can do something similar to that, not off a ground jump, but off a DB, I can do that. A diving board. Sorry. For people that know the terminology. You've seen me do board tricks before. I'm very gifted off a board, but that's
you look
helping
ridiculous
me
going
get
off a
air.
diving board. You don't even know how to do a can opener. You knew actually was unbelievable off diving boards as kids? When we would go to Hillcrest, Chris and John Love from Love Heating and Air. Chris and John Love could do the most amazing Susies. Do you know what a Susie is?
Yeah.
It was
Come on,
unbelievable.
do I know what a Susie is? That's like diving board 101, my man.
Okay.
I
Off
graduated
the
that
high
class
dive,
a long time
Chris
ago.
and John Love could do the most amazing Susies. It was mesmerizing. But Nyheim Hines, 3 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, when you've got a quarterback like Phillip Rivers that is obviously a veteran and has been around the block for a long time, but new franchise, new team, still getting used to all of the plays and what he's got to work with. You love to have safety nets for guys. And Nyheim Hines was exactly that, not only getting those scores, but the little he said he learned how to do it on his trampoline as a kid, jumping up and doing the little corkscrew.
You
and
see
landing.
Simone Biles? Gave him a shout out on
Did
Twitter. Yeah, she said that was awesome, like 100% or something. She
Yeah.
gave him the 100 score.
Well, that's worthy of being loved
I will
that play.
say for Chris and John Love, I do respect your generation because you guys had the high dives, which have basically been banned across the
Correct.
board, and you had that. What was that diving tank thing at the Riviera Club?
Oh, it's the best. Exactly
You
that,
know,
yeah.
like from like
How about
1920
this?
or something.
How about this? Som Park, which used to be Northeast Way Park on the northeast side of town, they used to have actual diving platforms. And you could go, I used to see my dad used to jump off the 32-foot, which
Wow.
is way up there, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like, I do have respect for that. I don't
He
think
jumped. He wasn't
I don't
diving,
think you
but-
guys could do tricks like I can because, like I said, I'm like next level on that stuff. But the platform stuff, I do have a lot of respect for. So I'll give you dabs for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw once one of your little diving board tricks. It was less than impressive.
You didn't see it live. Video clip doesn't really do it justice.
Okay.
If you slowed it down frame by frame, you might, because just to see
You
kind of
still-
the twist and what I can do in the
You're
air.
still spending a lot of time on your stilts, are you?
It's not that I get real high in the air. I just stay in the air for a longer time than most. Like, I just have an ability to kind of – my hang time is just ridiculous.
Okay.
Completely.
All right. Sure.
You always shoot down everything on the show. So it's too bad because I really thought going through what you went through that you'd be a little more open.
Are we doing bite or bullshit?
Well, first, let me tell you this story while we're kind of talking about your heart attack from last week. I could not access my QuerySchultz.com email. So if you need show content and all that stuff, you can go to QuerySchultz.com. That's also the show's website. And I have an email address there, Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at QuerySchultz.com.
I didn't even know about this. Do I have an email there?
No, you said no. When I asked you a couple of months ago when I set it up after our non-compete ended, you said that I have a Hotmail account, thank you, I think was your actual text reply. So Jake doesn't have one. So that means all of the emails come to me. So when you went through what you went through, I couldn't even access the email inbox because it was completely flooded.
Why didn't you forward any of these to me?
Because I couldn't get in there.
Okay.
So I did recently gain access to it.
Sounds like
and
your little email you set up that I was so
I will forward you the
callously
emails.
avoided really is working out well for you.
I really do appreciate everybody reaching out and you know, a lot of people actually
I would too, but Derek forwarded me none of them.
texted
So
me.
if you emailed me well wishes, I appreciate it, but I've yet to see them because somebody didn't let me see the email.
A lot of people texted me or messaged me about you because
how many emails are we
a
talking?
lot of people feel like they have a closer relationship with me and not so much with you, so they wanted to
How
still
many
feel
how many
connected.
emails are we talking?
Oh God, I don't even know. I haven't even gotten the chance to go. It's like the leaves that are in my yard. Like how many leaves have fallen? I don't know. I got to rake them all up.
All right.
You know what I mean? But
Well, thank you for
I
sending
can't even
them.
begin to count them.
Thank you for sending them, and I promise that I'll try to get back to you from the emails for your well wishes.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having like a little more normalcy with the fan mail. Like, hey, Derek, I'm big, you know, you're really handsome. I get some of the stuff like you're hot, which makes me a little bit. I'm happily married, but I do appreciate. Like I always reply, thank you, and I usually mention Ashley in the email, just to be absolutely sure. You know what I mean? I want to make sure people know that I'm taken.
Oh yeah, okay. By the way, you know what I learned
part of
yesterday?
your life as a public figure, Jake. You get hit on.
I'm watching a documentary on Bobby Kennedy, which is very interesting. You know what I didn't realize? Bobby Kennedy was 5'9". Did you know that Dr. Martin Luther King was 5'6"?
Yeah, the only reason that I know that is because I went down to.
Is that because in the newsletter you get? Sorry.
Can I finish?
Sure, go ahead.
The only reason I know that is because I went down to Atlanta to the Civil Rights Museum and all of that, and I believe they had a life-size. Remember when we went to the Lyndon Johnson place? I think they had a cutout of Dr. King that you could stand next to and get a photo with, and he was my size.
Yeah,
I remember.
You're 5'8", right?
Thank you, but no, not close.
Really?
I'm 5'6" with shoes on. I'm 5'5" flat-footed.
Okay. So
off a board, I'm 10.5 feet, my man.
Sure.
Off a diving board.
I'm calling Bull Schultz on that. Are we doing that next?
Yeah, we are going to do that. The shop, Biter, Bull Bleep. Also,
this shirt right here from the shop.
We got a couple
Wonderful.
of housekeeping notes to wrap up this episode 9 of Query Schultz. Back with more next. ISC Sports Network.
Life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Back for a final time. Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. It's time to get to our favorite of the many favorite features. And that's not a knock on Winners Drink Milk or Love That Play. We love them as well. It's just, I think the show became, kind of intertwined with Buy It or Bull Bleep. It was just kind of a vision that I had. As many of the great creations on this show were Schultz visions.
Wildly unpopular and now shockingly sponsored by the shop Indy.
You say shockingly sponsored.
Buy It or Bull Schultz.
Always sponsored. So... can it really be that shocking?
Look at that beautiful logo for the shop.
That's right.
TheShopIndy.com, if you're talking about T-shirts of a fashionable and nostalgic sense throughout Indianapolis. A lot of people compliment me each time, actually, on the different shirts that I'm wearing. Had Roslyn Bakery. They have a Hoosier Dome shirt that's fabulous. Now hoodies for all of the local colleges and just all of those things of a fun retro nature throughout Indianapolis. The TP Restaurant, for example, Burger Chef, Busch Stadium, you name it, Winners Drink Milk. They have it at theshopindy.com, 920 Broad Ripple Avenue, or also at Clay Terrace up in Carmel.
And 20% off.
That's right. Got to use the code word Tuddies.
Sorry, well, I didn't hear you.
Tuddies. I can't remember who it was that sent us a thing saying, quit saying Tuddies. And I said, I could not agree more.
I deleted that on Facebook.
Could not agree more.
Yeah, okay. I'm a overseer of that page, so any Tuddy slander.
Okay.
Out of here. Delete.
Tutty's slander.
I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's bull bleep. Here we go. Statement 1, Jake. Jordan Wilkins should be getting the lion's share of the RB1 carries.
It was Kim Moran.
Moving forward.
Kim Moran, who is married to my buddy Joe Moran, one of my bosses at the cigar store that I worked for 8 years. Kim is correct. Kim, Tutties, I agree with you. Now, in this case, you can get a discount with it, though. What was the first one?
Well, let me just say this. Automatic disqualification for any comment that comes from anybody that is associated with you from North Central High School. we kind of made that blanket rule.
Kim went to Connersville High School.
Blanket rule on the show, yeah, but she's associated with somebody that went to North Central.
No, Joe went to Connersville also. They're high school sweethearts. So, what now, tough guy? Okay.
Fine, Kim. We won't put Tutties anymore on the page, but it's still the discount code.
It is.
TUDDIES.
Okay, now what was the first
Jordan
one?
Wilkins should be the RB1 moving forward for the Colts.
I'm going to say that is Bull Schultz. And the reason why I say it's Bull Schultz is because I think the Colts' best plan of attack here, you never want to go quarterback by committee, but running back by committee can work. You see schematically from one game to the next what defenses are giving you and which guy best suits that. And so, therefore, you kind of mix it up and keep people guessing. Wilkins might be the guy that offers you the most versatility, but each one, whether it be Taylor, whether it be Hines, there are areas where they can be used, and if defenses are giving you areas that you can exploit on that, you just go game by game.
I'm going to make a really bad analogy. Are you ready? The Colts running back depth chart, let's compare them to cars. Wilkins is their most capable runner. But I think he's like the Toyota Camry, right? It's not flashy. It just seems to get the job done. Nyheim Hines would be – what would be a sport car that you couldn't drive in the snow?
Yeah, I mean –
you know what I mean? Like you have to only – he's only like a road racer.
Right.
You have to get him in space.
He's a Mustang convertible.
Hines is a very gifted and talented player, but he has to be utilized properly.
I would agree with that.
Whereas Jonathan Taylor's kind of a Tesla. Everybody talks about how great it is, but you're like, is it great yet? You know what I mean?
I think he's like a Mini Cooper. It's fun, does some neat things.
I don't know if
But when you start driving it every day, you're like, I don't know.
I like Tesla better.
Okay,
I just don't think he's ready to be.
You know, that
where
Tesla
he needs to
was
be.
so far ahead of his time. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
The inventions he had and the visions he had. Tesla was an amazing
But
man.
I agree with you, Jake. I think it's just a game
Now,
by
the
game
band Tesla, not so
situation
much.
where you just
The guy Tesla far better than the band or the car Tesla.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The band Tesla had that song Signs, and everybody thought, but that was a cover like 8 times over. You know, the car Tesla, you got the batteries that are blowing up.
The band Tesla? What are you even talking about?
Tesla, the band. Rock band?
I don't know what you mean.
All right. What's next?
Like hair metal?
Kind of. Not quite Aquanet hair metal, but kind of. Posers.
Aqua Lung, are you thinking of?
Huh?
What's Aquanet?
Okay. Aquanet's the reason why the ozone layer has depleted.
The Notre Dame Clemson winner and loser will be in the college football playoff. Buy it or bull bleep?
I buy it under one possible condition. If Clemson were to lose and then come back and avenge that loss by defeating Notre Dame in the ACC championship, then they could say, well, I'm sorry. If Clemson were to win and then lose to Notre Dame in the ACC championship, Clemson is a big enough brand and powerful name that they may say, you know what? Yeah, they lost the ACC title game, but they managed to beat Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
That's impressive enough. We're going to take both of them in. I think Clemson has the brand and the name recognition and the power right now and the star power to carry them into the playoff without being the ACC champion. I don't know that Notre Dame has that. So it would be Clemson of the two. But I'm still going to say Bull Schultz, Derek. I think the ACC only sends one because Alabama's going to go, Ohio State's going to go. And I think if BYU's undefeated or you have a really strong Pac-12 undefeated, a major conference is going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to say Bull, but you can't look at this stuff in a vacuum because you have to find 4 teams.
The ACC
right?
is not a 2-team league, period.
Well, but it depends. If that in that context that you laid out, it absolutely would be a 2-team, and I think Clemson would get a pass. I think the hard thing for me to believe is that losing this game for Notre Dame would be survivable. Because you'd lose to a shorthanded team at home shorthanded Clemson without Trevor Lawrence at home. Even if you won the ACC championship, which I guess would avenge that loss, I still think Notre Dame would have a hard time overcoming that.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna say bold bleep. Sticking with college football, statement 3: Jim Harbaugh should be fired after the season. Buy it or bold bleep?
Buy that. Look, if Jim Harbaugh's the guy at Michigan, wouldn't we know it by now? I mean, how many years now have we had the?
This is year 6.
Yeah. I don't know who you get. But Harbaugh, I just think, is an eccentric dude. It's not working.
I'm going to say bull bleep. This was by far the most unforgivable loss of his tenure. Michigan State stinks. And you just can't lose.
And it's Michigan State.
You can't keep losing that game. You lose to Ohio State, whatever. Ohio State's the Death Star. You can't keep losing to Michigan State.
Derek.
And he's what? He's 2-6 to those teams.
You are correct, but losing to Ohio State no matter how great Ohio State is, losing to Ohio State every year is the far greater sin to the Michigan fan base.
But at least it's forgivable.
But look, I get what you're saying. Okay? Except to Michigan fans, it is not forgivable losing to Ohio State.
It's the bigger game. I'm not Ohio State is the rival for Michigan. But you can't lose to the team that you view as the little brother.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nobody views Ohio State. Ohio State is viewed as a peer.
I know exactly what you mean.
So Ohio State is viewed as a peer to Michigan. Michigan fans don't view Michigan State as a peer, yet they keep beating them. And this is a down cycle Michigan State team that just beat them. Harbaugh has done a good job consistently beating everybody that he should beat and had avoided really unforgivable losses before this one. So we'll see where this season goes. I'm still not ready to completely write it off. I think Michigan fans have to accept that this is not what they think it is. Michigan talks about, the 11 titles. Michigan has half of a national championship since the color TV was invented. Like, if you want to talk about how irrelevant Notre Dame has become, that's fine. But Michigan hasn't been a championship-level program.
Half a championship since the color
Michigan
TV was
hasn't
invented.
been a consistent championship-level program since before right around the Cold War was starting. Like, that's ancient history.
I disagree with that in one area, okay? Maybe they haven't won championships, but they are in the conversation year in and year out, late into the year.
Michigan is a 9-3 team every year. That's why they have all of the wins that they have, because they're rarely – they had the Rich Rod era where they were bad, but they're rarely bad. That's why they have the highest winning percentages, because they haven't had the down cycles that Notre Dame, Oklahoma, or some of these other programs have had. But you have to give them credit for that. Yeah, you can give them credit for that, but your expectation is, we got to win the national championship. We're Michigan. Well, in the last 72 seasons, Michigan has a half of a national championship. So, that shouldn't be the expectation.
By the way, do you know what program in college football has won the most games without ever having won a national title? That's a fabulous trivia question, if you don't mind me saying so. The winningest college football program among the programs who have never claimed a national championship.
I have no idea.
Would you like to wager a guess?
I don't even know how to guess.
This is how you know, like, the arrogance of certain fan bases. My buddy Chris Jordan, diehard Ohio State fan, and a great dude. I grew up with him. So we're talking football the other day, and I said, hey, KJ, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a Big Ten program. Or I'm sorry, I said I'm going to give you a college football program, and you tell me it's Big Ten equivalent. Like, for example, Arizona State. Arizona State's like Iowa. Right? They're good every year. They start out like 5-0 and everybody gets excited, and then, reality kicks in and they finish 9-4.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like Texas Tech. Texas Tech's like Purdue, right? Got some good teams. They go to
But they're way flashier.
They are, but still.
Than Purdue usually. They score a bunch of points, give up a bunch of points.
Yeah, but like Joe Tiller was kind of like when Texas Tech was airing it out all the time with Mike Leach.
Yeah, okay.
So I throw this one out. I said, West Virginia. And Jordan's like, Indiana? What? I'm like, dude, West Virginia is like a legitimate top 20 program.
They played for a title, and they played Notre Dame for a title in '88.
Correct.
Yeah.
They've played for a half a title since the advent of the color television. West Virginia, Derek, is the winningest program in college football history without a national championship.
Wow.
The Mountaineers of West Virginia.
I did not know that.
Bobby Bowden.
Yeah.
Rich Rod.
They had some good teams. I mean, they had some good teams.
They're always good.
That Steve Slayton, Pat
They're
White
always
team.
Good. Yeah, they beat Clemson like 77 or something.
Yeah, and they had a chance. They lost to Pitt, I think, in the backyard brawl, or else they would have been in the BCS title game.
They're always good.
Very likely. Whatever year that was. 07, maybe.
What are we doing next?
06, 07. Well, we're done. This was the last segment of the show. Yeah, Biter Bopeep is done.
Okay, well, I'm putting the mask on because my obligation of when I'm supposed to talk to you is now expired.
We'll recap next week the Colts' big game against Baltimore, Indiana, Michigan, Purdue, Wisconsin. Maybe. Not sure.
Remember, Derek, winners drink milk.
And all the other off-topic, hilarious things that you've come to know and love on this program. Thanks to all our sponsors, The Shop, WGU Indiana, St. Elmo Straight Bourbon Whiskey, American Dairy Association Indiana. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Indiana Donor Network.
Yeah, come on.
We got everybody, right? And thanks to the crew here.
WGU, The Shop, St. Elmo, Indiana Donor Network, Love Heating and Cooling, and American Dairy Association.
We're back with more next week. We'll see you guys then.
Bye.